had the best infra, and then he got the best mind in the country at that time. He gave out American Express cards to teachers. He said, I would want to empower these women. We had a lot of professionals, so we had the first clinical psychiatrist in school.
I think the vision that he really came up with is why it stirred the whole education fraternity. Why should children not have a good environment to learn in? Because instead of thinking, बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी है, बहुत ज़्यादा
why put them through the hardship?
Why put them through the hardship of that little bit? But rather let them focus on the academics and also sports.
People talk about that India was always looked at as the higher education destination. No one spoke about primary education.
He didn't believe in only marks. He felt like, why should you make a child feel like a failure? No child should feel like a failure. Every child should feel they can do it. I think as an institution, we feel that the onus lies on us working with the parents together to make sure that that child succeeds. Technology has been a huge benefit to all of us, but we just have to make sure we're not overusing it. AI does play a huge part, like even with assessments that we want to do or psychometric testing that we want to do for children at older grades. AI is helping us in a lot many ways. Otherwise processes could have been much slower because you're still doing the handwritten. India is there. We are at the brink of it. So now it's really how far we want to put ourselves over there. Success for the child is actually to be a successful human being at the end of the day. Life is what we actually master, not only academics.
So you guys have been involved in the most important sector of this country, which is education. The next important, or a parallel important is the healthcare, obviously. So how has this journey been? Like, where did it all start? I mean, for you, and then you joined him. How did it all start? I mean, where was the genesis of all it?
Right. First, thank you for having us. And
it's my pleasure. One of the icons of education sector.
Thank you.
I'm
glad to have both of you here.
Thank you. So the word GD Goenka is actually Gayatri Devi Goenka, who was my late grandmother. So in the early 90s, my father started the school in her memory.
Okay.
Yes. And it's a very funny story actually. We were going to a very prominent school in Delhi. And he happened to come for one of the PTMs that day. And old typical fathers would not attend. They were so busy in their lives. Fathers were coming less and lesser to the PTMs, like how I think I am much
in those
more,
days,
I am much
the
more.
mothers were bestowed with that responsibility.
Exactly. So he just by chance he happened to visit, and he saw the safety, the hygienic conditions of that school that day, and he was a little taken aback. And that led him to that idea came into his head that I want to start a school which is the most safe, secure and hygienic school, and of course keeping the educational ethos in mind as well.
Right.
So in 1994, GD Goenka Vasant Kunj was launched, and we were popularly known as the AC Wala school.
By the way, I also remember that.
Yes.
Even I remember that from my own school days. It's like, this is a fancy school where they have air conditioning.
Yeah. But so much thought went into it. He was so particular about quality that, of course, air condition was one of the matters. But then he was the first one to get yellow buses in the country.
Yes.
Mineral water in the school, smart class, a live fitness.
In those days,
yes,
he had a smart class.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we had a live fitness equipment gym. So we had hoteliers coming to see a school that, what equipment have we imported from America.
Wow.
And we had GPS in our buses. So my father imported Garmin equipment in the 90s. It was unheard of, all these things.
But what a grand vision. I mean, like who would think like, I want to do hygiene, I want to put the process in safety. But, find out the best that is out there in the world, bring it here.
Even the ergonomics of furniture, everything had curves, there were no sharp edges. So much thought went into it.
So was there a consultant with him who would guide him, or this was like he searched himself?
So he searched himself.
But there was no internet also, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he was very passionate, at least what I know of Papa, like my father-in-law, is that, when he's talking about the furniture, even till date, the doors that we have are to make sure that, your finger doesn't get stuck in it. Every time I'm sitting in that office, they're like, we're trying to do something new, they'll always be like, usme sharp corners hain, what about the security? How are the parents going to know what you're doing? Because we want them to understand that we're doing this from a safety point of view. And academics was also a huge part, because whatever I have heard and seen is that he got the best institutionist.
Yeah, so we got Mr. Shomi Das.
Yeah.
He's an icon.
Yeah, so he's the headmaster of the Trinity. I mean, he was headmaster of Mayo, Doon, and I think Sanar. And he was also the tutor to Prince Charles to teach him physics.
Yes.
So my dad got a lot of DOSCOs. Is our core. The first leadership team was all DOSCOs.
Okay.
And they set the right tone. So we had the best infra. And then he got the best mind, literally the best mind in the country at that time.
And they were all trained at by the best and at the best
exactly,
places.
Exactly. So, and also like the HR policies were so ahead of their time. I was a student in the school, but he gave out American Express cards to teachers. He said, I would want to empower these women.
American Express cards to teachers.
Teachers in late 90s.
Wow. With a
certain
credit limit. Big corporates weren't giving.
Yes. That time. He said, I want to empower these women. They don't have to be dependent on their husbands.
Okay.
Go spend this much X amount, and this is on the company. We got the first group medical insurance. It was not heard of for a school. He got that done. And apart from these good HR practices, I think, we had a lot of professionals. So we had the first clinical psychiatrist.
In school?
In school.
Which is a conversation now.
Yes. Exactly. So we had Dr. Sameer Parekh, who now heads Fortis India. He's the most renowned psychiatrist in India. He joined. My father interviewed him. He was a teenager back then. And then we had a nutritionist on board. My mother keeps telling me that, she reminds me that this is all what we did. And, you guys were so young. And I don't even remember these names, but we just hear those stories from back in the day. A posture consultant. We were discussing today. Mom, I was like, Mom, is that called a chiropractor? She's like, Beta, I don't know, but we had a posture consultant, who was there and would check the posture of each child, and a diary was maintained.
It's unbelievable. We don't even have that right now.
Yeah. So I think the vision that he really came up with is why it stirred the whole education fraternity. Yes, we had the lux stuff also, the luxury, which was the air conditioning and
conducive.
all that.
I would call it conducive.
Yeah, but for him, it was more of a conducive environment. He said, why should children not have a good environment to learn in? Because instead of thinking, बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी है, बहुत ज़्यादा
why put them through the hardship?
Why put them through the hardship of that little bit? But rather let them focus on the academics. And also sports, I think, was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And is still a huge thing for us.
Horse riding
Goenka.
at that time. Horse riding was unheard of.
I remember.
Yeah.
Because we used to go to DPS and like AC wala school, usme horse riding bhi hai. So, those were the hereabouts.
So in fact, he introduced the guards and nannies in buses.
Yes.
So that was a concept alien to any school. And then eventually we got the first low floor bus in Delhi. So it went to the then CM Sheila Dikshit. Our low floor bus was showcased to the CM, and she said, I want to replicate the same buses.
That's how the idea for the Delhi
that's how the low
came.
floor idea came up for the department. So many firsts. I mean, also I think talking about startups, you're talking about edtech startups. So I think my father has given so much to the startup ecosystem in education, whether it's uniforms, whether it's Educom was one of our first buyers, whether it's bus vendors, security guards, furniture makers, you name it, catering services.
So new businesses came about.
Yeah, new business, because education, I've seen some of your podcasts, and you know how people talk about that India was always looked at as the higher education destination.
Correct.
No one spoke about primary education. So he also brought about so much.
He brought the limelight not only at the primary schooling, but also enabled a whole ecosystem that can support more primary education outputs.
And those suppliers and vendors are huge now in India. I mean, I can name them at my fingertips, some of them. So it's amazing, the journey.
But whatever he thought and did, so how did that culminate into student outcomes? Like, do you have any view on that? That obviously, we provided a great environment, but what did that do to those students?
Of course, I think, a lot of the students, because I was a student in the school, so we heard that, you guys are living in comfort and, you have all the jazz in the school, but we also had to prove ourselves academically. So we produced many national...
So benchmarks were same?
Yeah, benchmarks were same.
Benchmarks, I think, same across every kind of school. The end product is what the world is really looking at.
You get tested on the same markers.
And he also told me that, Nipun, most schools will take students at 90%ers and make them 95%ers. I want to take students at 60%ers and then make them 80 or 90. Or get failures on board and make them partially. Like the real win, I still remember telling me, the real win is after you take a student who has failed or is struggling, and you make them cross a certain threshold,
Right.
that's where the
That's
real
the
win
real
lies.
contribution.
Yeah, that's where the real win lies, and no one still talks about it. Everyone talks about the top, creme de la creme. 97, 98 is now common.
Common.
So he was always talking about how to increase that, average child, or in studies especially, and then
Yeah, I
taking
think
that higher.
he didn't believe in only marks. He felt like, why should you make a child feel like a failure? No
Yeah.
child should feel like a
Yeah,
failure.
yeah.
Every child should feel they can do it.
Even
No,
today
I'm-
in class 10th, if someone's struggling, or class 11th, he's always saying, no, work hard on them, promote
Work,
them.
he's saying
Even if it
work
brings
hard on
down the
them.
student average, the school
Yeah.
average down. But
And I think as an institution, we feel that the onus lies on us working with the parents together to make sure that that child succeeds. Children, of course, know a lot these days, but it is the triangle, which is the parent, the school, and the child, who can
Correct.
actually work together. So I think that
it's a
is
joint
the shift.
venture.
Yeah.
There's no,
Yeah. So I
solitary
think that
effort.
vision now is most important because of everything that we're seeing around us today, which is not only affecting education, but every other aspect of our lives.
That's interesting. So,
Yeah.
so you went to your own school. So how was that? was it an easy ride, or was it challenging?
Of course, it was an easy ride, but challenging at the same time, because I never felt normal in my own school.
Always under scanner.
Always under the scanner, and I had to prove myself in class 10th, class 12th, because I was getting a certain grade, and if I didn't maintain that grade, then fingers would be pointed at me.
Yeah.
So luckily, I maintained that grade and finally passed all the questions and all the arrows aimed at me.
How did people around you, behave or react or respond
some
to?
people were very warm because they wanted to, suck up to me. I mean, come on. I don't know if that's the right word to use at the forum, but and some people were cold also, showing that we don't care who you are.
Yeah.
So it was always hot and cold. I never felt normal in school, and there was always a continuous drive to prove myself. So maybe that was a positive part, that I have to prove myself, that even if I'm the owner's son, I can come do well in sports, do well in academia. So maybe that drove me a little bit at that time.
Are your children going to GD Goenka?
No.
No.
That was actually a very conscious decision. My choice was that I want to be a normal parent. From at least my perspective, he'd been through as a student, so he was very sure why.
And give your children a normal childhood at the school.
Yes, and I wanted to make sure that I can be a normal parent. I can go for their wins, and I can go for their losses.
Me too.
And
I love
can
going.
Go for their
I don't think
hardships and their successes.
Yeah, I don't think I've missed a single PTM or any other assembly.
I think that makes us grounded and keeps us normal, and leaves them to have a normal childhood without added pressures.
But we still can't escape it, because one of the class teachers of my son was an ex-Goenkan. So we can't escape it.
You will end up meeting them.
The ecosystem is so
on
small.
different platforms.
No, and I think it's not about escaping anyone or anything.
Not escaping.
It's about just having that normalcy for your children and for yourselves. I don't know what my children are going to say when they grow up older, but currently they know that this is my office and this is their school. So those barriers are already...
So cutely telling Papa.
Otherwise they'll all merge and blur. This is my office and my house and my school.
And for some reason, somehow they've never really asked me, why don't we go to this school? It's they kind of just know that this is Mama and Papa's office and this is our
No, but
school.
I keep reminding them, this is Dadu's school. Dadu made it. For them it's very important to realize that.
Yeah, where's the legacy coming from?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And cutely he'll say, Papa, I'm coming to GD Goenka. And okay, GD Goenka. It sounds funny when they say it. But okay.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So, but then, I think the way, your father envisioned the future of education way back, like 30 years back. Do you see that, other schools have picked up and learned from what he built?
Literally, I have to call him the OG of modern and futuristic education in India, especially K-12. And a lot of schools have emulated, at least now, the health, like I spoke about health, safety and security, those have become benchmarks in the country.
Right.
So I'm so glad to see that every school is, investing heavily on these resources.
So when he was doing all this and people were emulating this outside, so what didn't work? I mean, I'm sure there are many things that he would have imagined and envisioned that were absolutely new. They were ahead of its time, and it took some time for people to realize that these are important. But I'm sure he would have brought in certain things where he realized that India is not and never going to be ready for something like this. So did you come across anything like that?
You were an outsider. I mean, you could perhaps.
No, I was an outsider, but I always saw the the positives
Yeah.
of that, they have an air conditioner and they have all of those things. But I don't think we would hear anything negative about it. The negative connotation was that why should you give children an AC? They should rough it out in the weather.
Yeah.
And why should you do this? घर से अपना पानी तो ला रहे हैं, like those kind of things. So I think that was the negative connotation. But now in today's day and age, I think every parent wants that for their child. Most parents, I would say, still before they choose a school, yes, academics is one thing, but also safety and security, because our children are. We all have one or two children these days.
Right.
So, the security of our children is of prime
If you live in Delhi, you have
importance.
extreme conditions, extreme
Yeah.
Or
cold,
extreme weathers.
extreme
There's
weathers,
rain,
pollution.
there's hot, there's pollution,
Now we are
there's
centrally
cold.
And now we're centrally air purified.
air purified. We have semi-outdoor
So-
purification systems installed in our school. So
Yeah,
AQ has
the function of a of a family to have a livelihood in Delhi should not be a disadvantage to the child.
Yes.
That
Right.
your
Yes.
family has vocation here as
Yeah.
as an outcome of that. You have to study in schools.
Yeah.
If a school does that bit and ensures that at least you get a good bubble,
right.
just because you're in Delhi, you should not be penalized for a bad
Yeah.
pollution. So I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, 25% of our students studying in our school are under the EWS quota, and we follow it very strictly.
Yeah.
So we are proud to say that we give back also
Hmm.
in the same school.
No, absolutely. And but tell me, I've always seen parents talk about and sort of refer to when they went to school, what did they go through, how did they rough out at that time, and they want to really see a reflection of that while they are taking their children into the formal education. So have you seen that change, or people are still stuck in their own stories that they have told themselves or their parents told them, and they want to sort of repeat those stories with their children? And if they see a disconnect or a variation from there, and they get oh no, like AC, no, we never went to AC school, so
Right.
my kids can never go to there.
Right.
It is there. I'm not going to say it's not there. There are still many parents who are choosing that, though I won't say hardships, but challenges for their children. They feel that
Purposefully.
Yeah, but I feel
Because it
like
made them successful. They think
because,
that's the formula.
They think that this is the formula. But I think where I come from, even if you have all of this, the discipline and the hard work can never be adjusted to anything else. You will still have to maintain discipline, your attitude of life, the skills you're learning today. All of those are irreplaceable, whether you're in an AC condition or not. Kaam to karna padega.
But
have to work.
Non-negotiable.
But roughing it
Yes,
out can
yeah.
mean also roughing it out in sports. So we have, I can probably say we were the first school, probably not India or India, to get pickleball on our campus. We got paddle on our campus. We have an indoor pool, heated indoor pool, so you can use it during winter. So we have many sports facilities, so you can rough it out. Yeah.
And more often than not, people think that the school's job is academics. Whereas in today's day and age, there are so many parameters, so many avenues that a school is expected to, prepare a child for. I mean, there is sports, there is academics, there is social, peer skills, there is cultural skills. There's so many other things. So how have you come to sort of believe in, a good school is some place that does what? I mean, earlier school meant good education, meant good academics, good score, children getting into good colleges, and we are done.
Right.
But what is the latest and the new definition for a good school?
I think EQ is more important than IQ. That's emotional quotient is very, very important.
And have you seen the shift? It was completely IQ focused, and
Yes.
now
Yes, absolutely.
yes.
Earlier it was if you got through a great college, you're sorted.
yeah,
You don't need to think what else you need to do, because you'll get the right job, people will find you, you'll get picked up from there. Now college is not everything. It's really about who you are and how strong you can be mentally, how you can face the hardships of life, how well you can use technology.
right. How well you can do even if you don't get into a good college.
Yes,
like
how well you can do, because nowadays you can actually learn a lot just by everything that's out there. There is so much out there available to us that we have to keep in mind that careers are not just made in colleges any longer. They're really made by the person we make. So I think the role of a school is really that triangle. We can't have parents come in and say, but this was your job, you need to do this. But I feel like the children are actually spending so many hours at home with you as a family. So you have to pitch in as a parent.
Yeah.
I think
And
self-awareness
more hours.
is very
Yeah.
important. Self-awareness for a parent and for a child.
Yeah.
That what am I good at? And
Does school play a role in bringing that,
Of course.
relevance of self-awareness,
Of course.
with the child
Yes.
and with the parents? So how has your journey been? Like, what interventions?
Since
have
I
you
am
put?
mostly looking at the K-12 school,
Yeah.
I think school does play an important role. We have to teach them the life skills that we really need today. You know, it's not about passing an exam only. It's about actually passing the test of life.
Yeah.
So when you know what all skills we need to have, whether it's skills or abilities or the knowledge that we need to have to go through all of this, I think that really makes it for a child. So again, yes, we do focus on academics. I'm not going to deny that at all, because that is a general
That's an ask.
consensus
That's a demand.
of parents.
Yeah.
अगर आपके स्कूल में 85 या 95 या 99 नहीं आते हैं तो मेरा बच्चा तो आपके स्कूल में जा नहीं सकता है. Like that's like a demand.
Right.
But I think where parents are missing out is in what else are we doing holistically for your child, and what are you doing at home to balance that out? We have to be partners, in today's education, because children are going through a lot.
Yeah.
Especially right after COVID, you saw the shift. Those 2 years of online schooling. Children came back. Children saw things at home which they had never seen because they were never at home.
Never at home.
Parents.
Even the parents.
Yeah, parents
Yeah.
also
They
didn't
know
know
what
how to be
relation
with,
bond they had with their own,
exactly.
spouses or even children.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that whole shift was it was quite alarming in certain cases. And when children did come back, we actually had a lot of emotional health issues we had to tackle as a school.
Oh, wow.
And children didn't know how to just be confined to their houses. So yes, we were doing online schooling. Yes, they were interacting with friends and peers over Zoom and all of those things. But we were still mostly in our homes. So when they did come back, it took a little while for them to really settle down, normalize, and maybe some of them have seen some things that are still they're working on now on them and their own selves.
Right. And GD Goenka has been doing good work across many geographies. What's your take on how has India evolved in different pockets? So I mean, primarily started the story from North India here in Delhi, and now you're all over the country. Right. So do you see a difference, or they're all pretty much the same?
Of course, India has many countries into one.
Right.
Every state has their own culture, every language, religious connotation, everything. It's
any reference or anecdote from a different region that really changed your perspective around education. Oh my God, what are these guys saying? That I mean, I've been in education doing very well here, and you go to Bombay, you go to Maharashtra, you go to down south. People, sort of turn your thinking. So, and anything that you can.
I mean, we travel from time to time to Bihar and to Gujarat, and I haven't been to JNK schools yet. But yeah, you see the difference in the way sometimes lesson plans are taught, and they have their own local, the way the culture also, So I think it's I can't really recall something, but if something comes to mind.
But the rigor-wise, do you see that there is a difference in terms of the North is more high on academics versus let's say other parts of the country are more high?
Some states have really given us great results again academically.
Okay.
If we're talking about academics, I think some states are really pushing that for
But
the children.
for us, I think culture is the secret sauce. We want to imbibe the same culture in every school.
Yeah.
So typically the leadership is from that city and that culture, or you sort of assign people from your
it's a mix. It's a good mix, but it's handpicked by our central team.
Okay.
And we do quality checks, monitoring, leadership development. So last year we clocked over 400 hours in just teacher training.
Oh wow. Okay.
And 200 hours of just digital marketing training for all the schools on how to market themselves. And what I personally want is the culture to be the same, whether you're in Delhi, whether you're in
the thread has to be
Patna.
the same. They should relate to the same ethos.
Even till the blue collar staff.
Hmm.
So recently we've done a revision. We just completed 30 years, so we've revisioned our.
Oh, great.
So we've got a new vision, mission, and values piece
for the next 30.
For the next 30. So if you want to talk about Thrive,
I think for what we want now for the future of all our schools, I think so we came up with the term Thrive, which was all the values that we want to inculcate not only in
for all
ourselves,
stakeholders,
but also the children and everyone else
parents
who's involved.
And,
So Thrive is basically teamwork, being harmonious, being resilient,
innovation,
being innovative,
versatile.
being versatile, and lastly have empathy.
Empathy at the same
So
time.
those values, again, going back to that piece again, is what is going to make the next set of children.
So regardless of the geography, we want all the stakeholders to have the same, just imbibe Thrive in them. And Thrive itself is such a, I would say,
overarching, principle concept.
So we've said Thrive for Life. That's our new.
That's a new motto. We haven't released it out yet, so it's
okay.
It's
released now.
Yes.
I mean, it is kind of there. People do know of it, but it's not really. This is something now that we have worked on for the past few months, and now we're bringing it on.
Even our logo is now a falcon.
Yeah.
So the falcon speaks of taking wings and thriving. So
that has also been transformed.
Yes.
So
I think we are going through a phase where we are also realizing what all do the next the next decades need.
So we got all education. Our CXOs, all our principals, all business heads together, sat for over 6 months.
Yeah, and all the owners of all our partner schools have also been a part of this journey.
Yeah.
So we've kind of finished, say, stage 1, but now is where the real work.
And they're very excited now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we are doing more intra Goenka events, say like sports days or cultural events.
Okay.
Recently, we tied up with Yale, so we did a Yale Moon Conference.
Which was for all the GD Goenkas pan India.
Oh.
So we have about 105 functional schools, another 40 in the pipeline. But for those,
so how big is the group now? How many K-12s?
105 K-12s which are functional.
Okay.
40 more to come up, I think, until 2028.
Oh wow, that's massive.
And so this is just K-12. The healthcare and the toddler house and Lapati schools are separate.
Separate.
Yeah.
And outside of that, university is in.
Yes, university also.
Yes.
It's in Gurgaon.
Gurgaon, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And is there another campus?
No, currently we have one campus.
One campus
in Gurgaon. Yes.
So how do you see technology enabling, disrupting the way you are building your next 30 years? I mean, we have seen it. How technology completely got integrated into the lives of all vocations, and education services was not spared. In fact, playing a very, very critical role. So how do you see in schooling technology is playing a role?
So this was something that I think Nipun initiated, and he said, I want all the classrooms to have. So we've always had the smart boards. So the smart boards were kind of there. We kept upgrading them, but now finally we have the smart screens, like you call them, the BenQ screens. Which are not too hard on the eyes, and teachers are able to actually use them much more effectively. Instead of carrying all their papers and worksheets around, everything has been put on a Google Drive. They can access all their folders, and as students, they have access to the class plans in case they want to do some revisions at home. So of course, technology has been a huge benefit to all of us, but we just have to make sure we're not overusing it.
Right, but in that technological infrastructure that is available, so AI coming in as something that can completely disrupt.
Yes,
absolutely.
And sometimes bring to forth sort of transparently that how well the academicians know what they claim that they know.
I think sometimes AI also makes people look like they know a lot, because when you read it on paper, it seems like, oh my God, this is amazing. But you have to also meet that academician and make sure that what they've written on paper could just be AI written, and what they're actually doing.
So are they getting dependent, or are they getting scared of AI?
I think initially teachers were a little apprehensive, I would say, to go on to tech completely. We are still doing our PDPs and all those rounds of what the pros and cons of using technology with our teachers to make them feel comfortable. But AI does play a huge part, like even with assessments that we want to do or psychometric testing that we want to do for children at older grades. AI is helping us in a many ways. Otherwise, processes could have been much slower because you're still doing the handwritten thing.
So AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's here to stay.
Absolutely.
So are you sort of embracing it,
Yes.
or
Yeah,
are you sort of?
We don't have a choice. I think we have to embrace it, but use it in the right direction.
Yes.
And teach our students to use it in the right direction. So we have software like Turnitin. So I mean, if once you turn it in paper, this plagiarism. The students have to learn how to
use it to become better, rather than use it to misuse
just cut and
it.
paste.
Exactly. And also, I think especially at least when I was studying in the US, we were not taught when we were in school what is plagiarism.
Yes.
When I went to the US, they were like, you can't sit in our regular English classes, and I was like, why not? I mean, I'm as good as anyone else here. I've given my TOEFL, I've given my SATs, everything. But I think this was the part they wanted to teach us, that we didn't know what plagiarism means. We didn't know what it meant to put a footnote and write down where the resources are coming from. And the same thing now I'm seeing with AI. So when I am seeing teachers use it, I'm actually telling them, please tell me how much AI you've used. I don't want to go on to, those apps and put your things
Recently,
in.
we found something so perfect and we were like, this cannot be.
This cannot be.
And it was 100% match on AI. So I was like, okay,
the teacher finally owned up to it and she said, I've used it.
I want them.
Don't lie to us. Tell us you've used it.
No, and I want them to use it. So I don't want them to feel scared that we're
they shouldn't be scared.
But I want them to actually adapt it to my GD Goenka school, to a school that's in Delhi, to a school
and that's the power of AI. You can mold it to the way.
Which is deeply rooted in Indian culture. So all those things have to be kept in mind. You can't just blindly start using
What
AI.
I like about AI is that I think it gives a very unbiased view of every information you search on internet. And I don't want to go into the political side or economic sides of it, but I think it gives a very unbiased view to a student, especially. Although it can be a little harmful sometimes, but if it exposes a student to something which they shouldn't be seeing. But I think I'm a big believer of incorporating AI.
I think we just need to make sure that we're using it the right way.
Yes.
So what is the scale on 1 to 10 that we want them to use is something that we're still using and trying to define for everyone, which means ourselves as well as the teachers.
But this time period is very, very important.
Yes.
But you both being the leaders in your own spaces. So how is this crisis or this challenge or this unique opportunity shaping your leadership styles? I mean, how would you define, what leadership styles do you have today?
I think when I joined business 20 years ago, roughly, it was all about managing everything myself. I had to hold everything.
Everything must go.
Yes.
On my desk and then.
Yes. But now I think first visioning exercise really helped.
Okay.
So we never spoke to our CXOs and all the heads of our schools like this. And now we're holding many town halls in our own company where we call people from the pre-K business, from the franchise business, from the university side, from the healthcare skilling side, and I and Radhika and my other family members, we share the same vision going forward, and then we build teams and articulate them to empower them to take it forward, but of course with integrity and keeping our values and culture in mind. Doing that, so I think empowering.
So you're empowering. That's your.
Yes,
leadership
I'm now moving towards that. I mean, everyone evolves.
Right.
So,
it's an ever evolving, trait.
And also to grow, because we are growing very rapidly. I think by God's grace we'll be at 200 schools in a few years. And so we want to grow, but with a conscious of keeping quality in mind. That's very, very important. Not to compromise on quality. And the educational ethos, which goes keeping the right balance between, of course, you're in a business of education, it's not the right word to say, but keeping the ethos and keeping
the fundamentals right.
Yes,
that should be there. But do you think that people should, who are running education institute, should be wary of, calling education a business? Is there a problem in that?
I mean, I would not call it a business. Maybe I
no, but a lot of people are comfortable with that, and in their own right, that if I don't treat it as a business, something which is run professionally, then I can't deliver on the outcome. So,
Right.
so I mean, is there a why do the leaders in education who are running education institutes take a step back when the conversation is around the business? In my view, it should not be.
I agree, because growing up, it's a funny story. Growing up, I always envisioned myself as an industrialist. My father's younger brother, he runs one of India's largest corporates, conglomerates called Wellspun Group.
Right.
And I always used to think myself, why don't I hear about education in the private sector? And jokingly to my peers, I would say, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, I'm going to school. And they would laugh at me. And I've been doing that consistently for the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
I've been waking up and going to school. That's what I do.
I think for me,
but I want to tell this to the audience that running a education institution requires so much personalization, so much input, so much innovation. We have an accounting department. We have our HR department, which is the most important. We have an R&D department, which is the most important. We have administration, just like any other factory. You name it. We have the same departments as any other
any other organization.
Compliances. I mean, we are so regulated by whether it's UGC or AICT in higher education, or whether it's CBSE or IB in secondary education. So it takes so much toll on you, and you want.
So do you think that the choice to become a profit-making entity or keep it not profit should lie with the protagonist, who's setting up this venture, rather than this being a state call?
I mean, unfortunately, in India, it is
100% state call. We understand that.
But I feel
but globally, if you see,
if you want to benefit the children as much as we want, although I would say we are really putting in 100%, if not 200%.
Yeah.
If we get more support, we can actually make it
more
go
support,
all the way.
more recognition.
More support,
you
more
probably
recognition.
Go all the way.
Yes, we can
without
actually
even
go
thinking.
all the way. We can be as good as all the schools that people are talking about today. We want to send our children to Switzerland to study, and want to send them to the UK to study, or to Singapore. India is there. We are at the brink of it. So now it's really how far we want to put ourselves over there. So I think if we have the right support from everyone around as a community,
from the whole ecosystem,
yes, education can really.
And it's so liberating and exhilarating when you see your students doing well. It is. I'm sure you know who better than you.
That.
So you feel so liberated and you feel so good.
So such a satisfying experience that your effort culminated into building many careers.
Right.
And those careers will go down in building the nation and transforming the
impact. So today we are in our healthcare business. I was telling you earlier, we scale paramedics. So we are scaling X-ray technicians, we are scaling phlebotomists, we are scaling dialysis technicians, dental technicians. So recently a girl from Northeast, she joined us on a scholarship, and her starting salary is almost 8 lakh rupees. Wow. She just did 9 months of a certificate program in cardiac care.
So this is transformation.
It's creating impact. A girl from Northeast coming to Delhi to study and becoming a cardiac care technician, and not even doing undergrad.
Yeah, so college is not the end all of what education can actually give you today.
Right.
So
we missed out on your leadership style.
So I'm quite young into the whole business fraternity here in the education field. But I think a dream team really makes the dream work. So for me, how it has been, I think since the time I've joined, is to have my 4 or 5 key people, and they can be advisors to me. They're not a yes ma'am kind of a system. I'm very like, please tell me if you think I'm not correct on this, I would love to see their perspective also, because otherwise it won't work. Because they are the teachers, they are the heads, they're seeing what is happening on ground level every day. Even though I am there every single day, I kind of drop my children to their school and I go to my school. It's really how I do it. But just that keeping an open conversation in the boardroom, I think is what I would say is my style. I want to make sure that my team is being heard and I'm also being heard.
So, in India, typically, and especially in education where there is a lot of reverence to the hierarchy and everything, should the leader be the one who speaks the last? Because if you speak the first, and then everybody just
says yes.
says yes.
That's I saw that initially, and then I realized, but they're not giving me their ideas, and their ideas could be much better than mine. So that's why I'm again saying that whenever someone who I'm sitting with who's at a certain level, whether it's a head of department or the principal or the headmistress of the school or the academic head, I always tell them that you must share what is on your mind first before I give you what I feel it should be. And I think then we come together collectively and make a decision.
But decision rights and resides with the ultimate authority, which are you guys.
Absolutely, but I think
but then at least the inputs help you make a better decision.
Yes.
A better decision doesn't have to include the commentary from others. It also means to reject those commentary because this is not what we want to do.
But at least we've given them a chance. We don't want them to feel that just because management is sitting here, then that means they should be the end all of everything.
Plus, they are professionals. So I've recently hired a CHRO on board, and we are following good HR practices to the T. We're going in for GPTW. So hopefully in a few months we'll get a great place to work. So we are working on many new initiatives like these.
And it's not possible for us to do everything by ourselves. We need to have a great team to do it, and we have to keep their views and our views in alignment to be able to succeed. I think there was a time where maybe the bosses called all the shots, but I think today it's really teamwork. Again, like the Thrive, as soon as we came up with Thrive, the reason why we, I think, started with Thrive was because the T was so important to us. Teamwork is really the key for everything.
So who's your role model school or education leader today?
Okay.
What has which education system, India, abroad, has really impressed, and you said, oh wow, this is something that I would definitely like to emulate as you build your next 30 years?
So for me, I was fortunate enough to go to a great school in Delhi as well. And Mr. Arun Kapoor, who is the director, for me, I think I've seen him as a student. But then I got married into a family who, runs schools. So I think that really left an impression with me, the way he led the school. And this particular leadership skill where I'm saying that, we listen
what was
to
the difference? Not many people, speak
about
it.
He's with the Bhutanese government
now.
He's with the, helping Bhutanese government.
But I think the way he led, whether it was with the students or whether it was with his team or whether it was with his teachers or whether it was the management of that school, because as students, I think you see them very differently. So I think that really left a big impression on me. Till the time he was at Vasantvari and I would go for my alumni meets, he knew me. He was like, oh, Radhika is here. He knew who my brother was. He knew who my parents were. And I feel like...
So he had that connect.
The connect. Even, I remember my brother telling me he just randomly sat next to him on a flight and he remembered everything about him, even though he's already at Bhutan. Wow. So, the connect that someone can create with a child and a parent is something which is... You'll never forget it.
I think in higher ed space, you met Mr. Cointreau. He started Cordon Bleu. And I see him, he's 85 years old and he has 37 institutions globally. And he's always on the plane. And the minute details about quality and maintaining quality in each of his Cordon Bleus, how they run it, is something I want to emulate, within my own institutions. And at that age, he has that drive at the age of 85.
And culinary institutes are, they're as much as a science
yes.
and academics and art all
and
put
design.
Together. And design.
So it's a lot of discipline, and at the time, of course, you got that flair. You get, it's like now you have celebrity master chefs coming along. So it has that side to it also. But at the core, it's discipline. And nowadays, food technology, the way it's going.
No, speaking of that, I think your interest in culinary, academics and culinary institute, where did that come from? We haven't really seen this, vocation really getting the importance that it should.
So that's the gap I think I saw in the Indian scenario. I saw there's, of course, medical and engineering are always at the top.
Always,
then you have
staple careers.
Management and law, which have, law is recent. It's been a recent movement in the last, I think, 15 to 20 years in the private space, I would say. And then I saw culinary is a very prestigious profession to be in. And the likes of Vikas Khanna, Ranveer Brar, they've all visited our campus, and we've given them honorary doctorates, honored them with the Cordon Bleu degree. So that's where I thought that that we really need a good Indian culinary school, and we tied up with Cordon Bleu to get their expertise.
It's interesting that you guys run vocational skilling and career programs as part of the university, and then you're running schools. So do you think there is a change needed in the way the curriculums in the school are designed and delivered? Because once you're ready after your grade 12 and then you go to a college, you're like, I'm not going to use what I learned.
So, in fact, in our exercise of our visioning, missioning, we've also made sure that our teachers, our professors in the uni will come and teach into our classrooms.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
So PhD is teaching secondary education. So
that is something which is very, very needed, because most of the kids just have the theoretical knowledge and some video knowledge.
Yes.
But they really don't know where they're going to apply their laws of physics or the concepts of chemistry or formulas of maths. So they don't know that.
Yes. So making a conscious effort of making sure our professors come into our classrooms and our students in our schools going into the university labs.
But that is the effort that you guys are doing, because you are in that fortunate
we're lucky
integration.
To have on the same,
but as the education board, do you see an evolution on that side happening, that we've been teaching this way as a CBSE or as an ICSE, but we need to change?
So the K-12 schools are mostly CBSE, even though we do have one IB school in Sona. But the K-12 schools, I think CBSE is really changing. They are not the same CBSE we knew, which was all about rote learning. Yes, it's there because in our boards at some point you have to make sure you've got those 4 words in there to get your 4 marks, or or you lose it. But I think up till grade 8, they're really flexible. They are allowing us to really teach the children the way we want them to do.
So I think the effort is there now.
So the effort has to be now from the school side to put in that, what are the methodologies that you want to teach, how you want to teach those children. You still have to learn about air and water and land and, the basics. The basics are still going to remain, but how you teach them is the flexibility that they're giving us. And I think CBSEs also over the last few years, they've come up with 2-3 different things. So for example, they launched the happiness curriculum, which was, going towards the EQ, because there was a shift you could see. And this was, I think, launched in 2019. And right after that, COVID happened. So post that, we realized that this is something we need to talk about our emotions. And then I think just this year, they launched something, the parent, school and child triangle. This is the most recent one that they had shared with us. So I think they are also understanding that we have to take things from these international curriculums and work. But so I'm not going to say we're stuck or we're stagnated, but I think it's moving. The ball has started moving, so I think it's a good way to.
We have developed some books, no, in the preschool.
So I mean that's what they've given us the flexibility to develop our own curriculum. So how I want to teach my child English or Hindi or maths is actually up to me. Yes, we have to use NCERT as our baseline for everything. But again, we've, at least at GD Goenka, we've got our own books. And the books actually were not something that I have recently just done. They were actually there even when the school started. They had already made their own books at that time to teach the children.
Okay.
And this is something that we're just revising now, because these are the new things we want to put into education now.
And do you think whatever changes that are happening, will it ever be a situation where schools become hybrid? Do you need kids every single day in school, or do you think they have better integrations that can be planned outside the school premise?
I think we have seen the hybrid mode every single year since COVID. Pollution, every time pollution comes up, we are closed for a good 20 days. We have, I think, online schooling.
But then in that case, it's just the teaching, but just keeping the teaching out.
Of course.
Like you say that 3 days of teaching in school and 2 days there's no teaching.
We're yet to reach that point, I would say, but I think it's important. The excursions
but it's
are
definitely important for them to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Whether you're in a school.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm a firm believer of that.
Yeah.
That 5 to 6
that
days
discipline, that getting out and seeking
And I think schooling is not only about academics.
Yeah.
It's about that discipline.
That's why
you
the
have to
hybrid.
get up,
development.
you
I
have
think
to reach some place
yeah.
on time. You have to make sure you've done your homework on
Healthy
time.
competition.
Healthy competition, teamwork, being empathetic with your partners in school, like, you know, with your friends in school, making sure they were inclusive. So there's so much beyond academics that a school actually does. The sports, you know, that also teaches you something completely different. So it's schooling is not just academics. At least that's not how I see it. I think there's a whole world around the school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we've seen some completely online schools coming up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And operating right now as we speak.
I'm old-fashioned, so I would want.
So that's why I need a comment on that. What do you think of them?
I'm very old-fashioned. I would want. See, if you're in higher education and you want to learn, upskill yourself, then definitely online learning is the way to go.
Okay.
Because you can reach maximum impact. So today, if we are recording this and someone sitting in Siliguri can benefit from it, then why not? If you want to upskill yourself in, say, finance, then definitely. So upskilling and
I think even with schools, just like how he's saying, even in the localities or areas where there are no brick and mortar schools available, in small villages, there I would say this is a great plan.
Definitely.
That maybe we can sit in our spaces wherever we are, in Bombay, Pune, Delhi, Bangalore, Calcutta, any of, you know, the cities, and we can actually start working with villages which don't have this infrastructure
NGOs,
available.
And it doesn't make infrastructure sense to set it up in an offline
because
setup.
over there, just making sure that the education has reached, I think, is far more important than anything else. Because at the end of the day, I think what each and every one of us who's in the education fraternity collectively, I think, needs to make this a vision for the country, that we have to make sure we're reaching every one of our students wherever they may be.
And what do you think of homeschooling? Have you come across any parents that say, no?
I think parents do come across and say, you know, our child now wants to sit for the JEE or the NEET. So, बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ती है. We can't come to school. But again, schooling is
that's like, you know, just staying at home to prepare for, you know, you're still part of the school.
We are still bound by
but some say that, you know, okay, NIOS and I'm homeschooled.
But I feel like, where will you learn all those other skills? Where will you learn the values? Unless you come from large families. Back in the day, like I came from a joint family, so we did all of that as a family. I think we learned a lot of those skills. But nowadays, we're all in nuclear families. Everyone has one child or max 2 children. So where will that learning happen? It has to happen when you're with a group of people who you don't know. Like simple things like when parents come to us and say, you've shuffled our children, but my child wants to be with this one. That is like every April, every year, there are like letters.
They remain in a comfort zone. They need to get out of
they
the
don't
comfort
realize
zone.
that we're not doing this to trouble the children. We're
It's
actually
just to
doing
grow
this
the child.
because today they're in the school. They're gonna be with us for 14, 15 years. They still have the comfort of coming to the same place, meeting the same people, having the same teachers. Tomorrow when they leave us, they're gonna have to have
this much familiarity is good enough.
And they I don't think they understand that, but I really hope that they do, because this is to make sure that their child is comfortable when they flourish and, you know, when they go out of school.
When they go into the next
real
chapter
world.
of their life, when it's higher education, after that job, then getting married, having their own children.
Right.
Every stage of life has its own challenges and
True.
Yeah. So schooling is so much more than just academics.
And, you know, I mean, is India doing enough on higher ed? I mean, are there enough good colleges and universities to absorb the, you know, the aspiration of kids who are passing out of schools? Or there will always be, you know, a westward movement of students to find, you know, good institutions?
I think India in the last few decades has seen a spurt of a lot of private players getting into the space, and some of them have done very well. I mean, if I look at liberal arts, it's Ashoka. If I look at law, it's, you know, Jindal has done very well. You have Kriya coming up now. You have ISBs of the world, and then of course your top ranked IITs and IIMs and the NIDs and NIFT. So definitely India is a place to be. But I feel if you want that exposure, if the parent wants to settle their child abroad, then they usually look at that route, that they go and, you know, get their placement. But India is definitely the place to be. I mean, we have students in our university from 40 nationalities. So it's not like only Indians are going.
Do you think that there has been a change of this
Yes,
reverse
mostly
movement?
mostly from the Eastern European side,
Okay.
African side, the SAARC nations are coming to India. They're looking at India. Of course, the Western world, they're more on the research side. So you are getting people from America and Europe coming, but those are the research-based projects with IITs and IIMs and of the world.
And I think it's not only that people are turning to India now. I think people are turning to Asia. Like, you see, you see universities in Japan now wanting to reach out and teach their courses in English. You see the same thing happening in Korea. So universities are really opening up on this side. Even in China, for example, like they are really wanting people to come and learn what is going on in Asia.
In fact, in 2008, we were the first ones to get a foreign campus to India. And luckily I stumbled upon that opportunity because I was in the University of Warwick, and while in my final year we decided that why don't we get a degree at the 1/3 the cost, so you get the same degree, same graduation. The vice chancellor flies in from Lancaster University. You have professors flying in from there, students going there for semesters abroad, and we give the same degree. So parents who were aspirational and could not afford to send their children abroad. But unfortunately, that time the dual degree recognition was not there. Now, if you get a NAC, if you're a NAC compliant university, NAC A+, you can give dual degree. So we've gone in for a NAC. We're a young university. We're only 10 years old. So we've gone in for a NAC, and we're looking at foreign partners again to tie up.
And I think there are a lot of parents who don't want to send their kids straight abroad. Yeah, I would say I was one of the lucky where my parents still said, okay, we're okay with you going. But I think there are still many parents in India because we are brought up in a very nurturing, closed environment. So parents do prefer, I think, schools like this where you can do 2 years here and then go for your 3rd year there. For example, at Corner Blur, that's what we're now going to initiate, that you can do 2 years here and then do any other campus abroad. So the experience and exposure still is there to a certain limit.
Right.
Yeah.
And in terms of the current generation, the Gen Z, how a school, I would not say, struggling to cope up with them and their needs and aspiration, but what's their, what's their game plan? Because, I mean, those are the cards you're dealt with.
I know I saw the show Adolescence recently on Netflix,
God.
And I told Radhika, I said, you must watch it, but I know you're going to cry throughout the season. What is your take? I mean, you're dealing with all the teenagers.
I think it is a tricky situation to be in. Because somewhere the parents have got this theory that let them be. They're like, they don't listen to us, let them be. And I don't know, I come from a thinking where it's like, I don't believe in the let them be theory. I believe in letting them know that this is how it needs to be done theory. Because if we don't tell them what needs to be done today, tomorrow they will not know what they need to do with themselves. We have to make sure that we know well enough what pathway we want to show them. Children are children. Even though you say Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, whatever is now popping up is, every day a new one.
Yeah, we have young children ourselves.
But till the time I feel like I am equally responsible, if not more responsible as a parent, because the child is spending so many more hours with me than in a school. And we have to show them the path. They have to learn what life is and not just, I'm okay.
So what's the fear of parent when they hear what the Gen Z has to say?
Because I feel like we didn't know what replying back to our parents meant.
Correct.
Let me put
so
it
is it
simply.
wrong to reply back?
I don't think so.
No.
I think
is it the way that they
I think it's the way that we're doing it. So earlier I feel
but
like
where
our
are they
parents
picking it
didn't
up?
know. I don't know. So
the
maybe
observing parents.
True. So true. So maybe our parents didn't know any better, so they would have their daily lives in front of us, for example. But we as parents now know better that can affect our children.
Yeah.
So whatever you have to do as a parent, you parent them. But when you are there are times when you have to be friends with them, and then there are times when you have to actually be the parent. So I think there's a little bit of a there's a little, the line is not clear. It's a little blurry at
So
this
I
moment.
believe in leading by example. So
Yeah.
I hit the gym every day at 7 a.m. and they're, at least before they
kids
leave
see
for
that.
school, they are inside the gym with me.
Okay.
Whether they're dancing to the music, whatever they're doing. So it's about leading by example, I think.
Yeah.
I make sure I don't, any of my vices are not in front of them. We consciously try not to have arguments in front of them.
Yeah.
So I think it's also, we are equally responsible and we have to lead by example.
And also as a school, because sometimes there are parents who are like, you know, "वो हमारी बात नहीं सुनते हैं, you deal with it."
Okay.
That's where I think then the school really has to start playing an important role, where we start mentoring not only the child actually, but also the parent.
Yeah.
We kind of want to bring both of them in and be like, look, this is how we think it should be. The rest is of course on them. It is their child and it is the parent's decision. But as a school, we would like them to, you know, live their lives with a certain standard, with a certain discipline, you know, with certain respect and rules that are needed in a school atmosphere. And somewhere the parents actually come back and tell us also, thank God you've done this, because now it makes them also understand and it makes the parent also understand. We're a country which is scared of saying we go to therapy.
Yeah.
So that is again something that I feel we should be okay with it. Why are we scared to
It's a
say
taboo.
yeah, if today anyone's child needs it or any parent needs it, maybe we also need it, you never know, but it's not a taboo. It's better to actually speak our emotions out than falling sick at a later age, because that's how we're seeing that emotions being held up and pent up are converting into sicknesses later in our lives.
Yeah.
And it all begins when you know, when you're in that age. And now children at the age of 8 or 9 know much better than what we did when we were 8 and 9. So
it's because they're more exposed.
Yes.
Because of the exposure.
It's a handheld devices.
You know, I know the technology is a boon and a bane both. So of course it's great for them to have that, but we have to also understand where we restrict them and what is it that we must make sure that they don't have access to. Today you can log on to a YouTube with but the baby, like literally 3 years old, they know how to unlock our phones nowadays.
Correct.
So you know how to make sure that we are around, we are monitoring them, we don't let them just be. That's, I think, my parenting philosophy, which I think I want to bring into all the schools and work with the parents and children together.
So as an education institute, I mean, the kids are getting exposed with so much content out there. So how are you enabling them to filter what's good for them? Because, you know, the media has to earn the TRPs and they have to sensationalize any and everything that comes to their forte. But how do we prepare our children that, you know, this is good to read or watch, and this is something that you should completely cut it out? Because,
like I said, lead by example. So if I need to watch say a thriller or a serial killer show, I would watch it in isolation. I would not make sure that my child is around me somewhere when I'm watching that.
Yeah.
And of course with technology, we've got the new smart screens installed in our school, so they have all the checks and balances in place. So you can do it at the both ends, like on the personal front and on the technology side, that you have these certain filters installed wherein a child cannot access those that information.
Yeah, I think in school all our BenQ systems are locked. So no child can just go and start having access to it till the time the teacher doesn't.
Are they allowed to get their devices?
No, I think that's been a decision which is still pending with us because we are on the fence about it.
Okay.
Even though I think the infrastructure is set up for it, the bandwidth is set up that, you know, we can and we should. Just the fact that how much control are we going to give to those children, because already they are bringing their mobile phones in every day. There are a whole of mobile phones that are in the principal's office, and then, you know, there's the conversation is there every
day. It's so
day.
funny, you know, they think that they'll get away and nobody will watch it, but they end up...
And parents also think, but wo school ke bahar jaake use karenge. We're like, no, you send it later, but we are a school that doesn't allow. There could be schools that allow it.
You think there should be like a government norm, like in some of the countries they've done that? I
think so.
You know, below 15 or 16, the child cannot have a phone.
Absolutely.
I think there is one in place. In schools, you're not allowed.
You're not allowed, of course, but parents are still giving
I
their
think that's more
children
from
to
the
bring,
safety, security perspective. Parents feel that,
But you know, in our times,
But
we
there was
never
no
needed.
phone, yeah.
No, never.
Like nowadays, even when children are going for their camps and parents are sending phones, and I was like, I also went for camps in my school time, and
We never carried it.
and I remember I even fractured my leg at one camp, and there was nothing. I called my parents and said, "Ho gaya," went to the hospital. This is done, and they were also pretty relaxed, and they were like, "ठीक है, she's fine. That means we're fine."
Yeah.
Nowadays, parents, the kind of parenting we are doing, I think, is very different. So
Why is it different? Why is it so protective?
Yes, I think it's very protective. I don't know why. I don't think I have the right answer for that.
But you as a parent,
but we are working towards it. I mean, to our best ability.
Yeah, I think to our best ability, I'm very like, please let them be. वो गिरेंगे, कुछ ना कुछ होगा. This is their way of growing up. You can't stop it.
If you look at Sweden, all of us used to follow Scandinavian education.
Yes.
They have rolled back EdTech from all their classrooms.
Yeah.
Correct.
Sweden Prime Minister announced.
Yeah, they recently announced that.
So just imagine such a progressive country which has gone completely electric cars, and everyone, the whole world follows the Scandinavian
So they're
countries.
literally glaring into the bad effects of tech,
Yes.
and they want to completely
Because
cut
I
it
They have
off.
completely banned it.
Yeah.
So so there hangs a fine balance.
That's the fine balance that we have to create as a school, because I think we are in a place in India where we know that technology we can use to our benefit also. So we have to make sure that we're using it just for that purpose, and then we're done with it. Then you go back to your...
Like if I give an example, I wake up every morning and me and my father read the newspaper. So we are so used to holding the paper in a hand, and I don't see anyone who would be, forget Gen Z, even someone would be in their 30s
for them
holding
everything is
on the phone.
even
has
holding
to
a
pop up.
novel, a book is so alien now to children.
Like, I think
It's so sad. I mean, I feel.
I think reading. Let's bring our children back to reading a book.
And in the world of AI, when you have to prompt, you need to be master of the language.
Because if you don't know what to prompt, you're not going to get the right answer. So these skills you still have to continue. Reading is something which you're never going to let go with. चाहे आप वो हिंदी में करें, चाहे English में करें, चाहे French में, Spanish, whatever language you do. But
it's sad, the short attention span of students.
And I think I've seen it with my own children, I would say. I'm actually learning from them on a daily basis.
Relearning.
Life is about unlearning, relearning, learning, whatever you want to call it.
All the matras you're putting in the
But
even I've forgotten.
Exactly.
So sometimes they're like, well, why do we need to do this? We can just type it out. Why are you telling me to write cursive? Why are you telling me to focus on my writing? अब तो हम सब type करते हैं. But skill. Technology will replace everything.
Is there an overhanging fear that whatever we have in terms of the facilities and the comforts and the benefits, it might just go away suddenly, and then we might be back into the medieval ages, and we would need our matras then.
Yes.
So is there a fear always?
I don't
Is there a what if? Is there a strong what if in minds of
maybe
parents?
in our heads, but not in our kids.
I don't think it's a
It's not a fear?
I think for me it's the rigor. I think it's about the rigor.
Which is an essential block towards making who you become.
Who you will become. If you've done, all these are stepping stones to who we're going to become. So as children, I think we've grown up in a time where technology was not so important. We didn't have phones all the time. I remember the first time my mom got a phone, but we were not given it. Like my child is now in grade 3 and already some of his friends have phones, and he's always like, why can't I have a phone? They all have a phone. I'm like, when you come back from school, you have someone in the car with you, they have a phone. When you're anywhere in class, someone is always there with you. So you don't need the phone.
Like my daughter knows that when she turns 18, she gets the phone. She doesn't have a phone.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Wow.
So, but then,
I know we are going to battle it with our children.
Yeah.
But I think it's okay. We can be the bad parents. What's it called? Mean parenting. I'm okay to be a mean parent.
I think you should open a parenting school, Radhika. No, I think that's the need of the hour.
So how do you guys define success in this today's age for a student? Earlier the success meant good college entrance. Before that, success meant becoming a metric and an inter pass. And before that, it was you get employed in the government or with the Maharaj there. And in today's age, in this such fast moving changes that are happening, So what is the definition of success that the parents should keep in mind? That
I think
if
again,
this happens, then it's good.
I think coming back to thrive.
Yeah.
So if a student passes out from school or college and he has the right set of values, like how we say thrive is team-centric, harmonious, resilience, still innovative and versatile, and still being empathetic. After being everything, you've achieved everything, you still be, stay rooted to your values and your ethos. I think that's success for me.
Yeah. And I think we're so lucky to be in a place like India because we have the right culture already in our system. We are told that we have to be grateful for everything we have. So again, achieving everything and still being grateful, achieving everything still being rooted. To have that therav in your life, that you have everything, but that doesn't make you any better than the next.
We were looking for the word English
word for therav,
but we could not find the exact.
The depth of language in India is
so
much,
we could not find.
More.
We wanted therav to be our tagline, but we could not find a word for it.
And I think success for the child is actually to be a successful human being at the end of the day. Life is what we have to actually master, not only academics.
I think that I love this quote. Integrity is something to do the right thing when no one's watching. So that's one of the virtues I feel like,
And that doesn't mean that parents should not let their children do what they want. We don't want to make only engineers and only doctors and only lawyers. There are so many amazing, needs that have opened up, or places of work that have opened up, whether it be in the field of environment, whether it be in the field of climate, whether it be on the field
like in our university, we're running very niche courses now in fire and safety, in ESG, in hydroponics, you saw hydroponic farming. So there's a plethora of, and India's at the right stage, we are at the right stage at the right time, to pursue these careers.
I think in the World Economic Forum this year, they released like the 5 things that they think students should actually have. So out of which I think skills, knowledge, attitude, I'm forgetting the other 2, but they were not solely and wholly academic.
Marks or academics.
Yeah. And then they were talking about what are the new. So right now AI is the newest, is the number one.
Because that academic knowledge is now with AI.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
What we need is to
knowledge
build
is
on
actually
top.
number 5 on that list.
Yeah.
The attitude and aptitude and all of that.
How to use that knowledge.
Yeah, was way above on that. And they're telling you that AI today is the number 1, job replacer in the world. But slowly AI is going to go down because we want to humanize technology. I think that's what the world is talking about now. Yes, technology is important. Yes, it's going to take over, but it's also going to create a lot more. So apparently 70 billion jobs are going to go away, but 180 billion jobs are going to be created.
Because of AI.
So what are the jobs that we want to make our children ready for now? I think is also a big question, at least for me, being in this fraternity, that what should we teach them so that they're able to reach, that they're ready for that, because we don't know what it is going to be.
Like that quote by Einstein, we were talking about it in the car. If you teach a fish, every child is a genius. And if you teach a fish to climb a tree, it'll always feel bad for itself.
Not feel enough.
It'll not feel
I'm
enough.
not good enough to.
I'm not good enough. Yeah.
So that resonates. Imagine Einstein said it 50 years ago.
I think children are great. Children are amazing. We have to make sure we're showing them the right trajectory.
I can see my both children. I mean, one child is so different from the other. In the same house, they've been brought up in the same house. I have 2 sisters. All of 3 of us are so different. So every child is unique.
And that doesn't mean anyone is better than the other. There is no comparison. There is no discrimination. Someone is going to be great at sports and one is going to be great at academics, and one is going to be a musician and the other is going to be an artist, and everything is amazing.
Yet teachers have their favorites and the parents have their favorites.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So, of course, that will always be there. But, you guys have also, have a long innings on the Indian curriculum. So, do you think that India and Indian parents are ready for embracing international curriculums like IB, IGCSE, or this is just a fancy hogwash that's happening?
No, I think they're very much ready, and we were one of the first few schools in India to introduce IB.
True.
Back in 2005. And I think IB, Montessori, we have Montessori in our preschools, and Montessori is all about sensory play. you know, and where the teacher acts as a guide and not an instructor. So it starts from preschooling, whether it's Montessori, then you go to IB, Cambridge, then you have what do you think?
And also like free play, like you know, in Italy there was a school which they follow the Reggio method of teaching.
Yes.
Emilia
So,
Reggio.
yeah, Emilia Reggio. So which is again free play, which is based out of nature, which I think again is a very important thing for us to teach our children. हम भूल जाते हैं, we're in our little bubble, we don't know what's going on in the environment. Earth Day आया, we all celebrated as a school. उसके बाद we've forgotten about it. So that's something we have to do every single day. How does nature play a part in our daily lives? Like, you know, when you said that education is not only in the classroom, you are going to go out and you will learn that.
And do you think these curriculums are
very much
well planned to
absolutely.
imbibe that as part of our daily learning?
Very much.
Yes, I think IB is giving you inquisitive
Flexibility,
thinkers. They're bringing out the curiosity in these children. So curious thinkers is, I think, something we need always. Today, even when, if, for example, if I wasn't doing this, I was in some other place of work and I wanted to switch my role or switch my job or my trajectory, if I was not a thinker, I wouldn't be able to do it. If you're not a thinker, you will be doing the same thing every single day without questioning why.
Right.
So these international curriculums actually make them think, and they're research based. They let the children actually explore it for themselves without telling them what needs to be done.
Until class 9.
Which was a typical spoon feeding
the rote learning method.
Approach. But we are following till class 9. We have
that's
a blend of all curriculums.
Now in CBSE they're flexible about it, which I think is great. 10th and 12th, we're still working with it, and I think they are coming up every few years. We hear that now we'll do it in two you know, we'll break up the board exams in 2 terms or whatever. Again, I was at a meet with some other principals of other different schools, and they said, you know, आजकल तो everything has become so easy. CBSE ने सब कुछ easy कर दिया है. There is no rigor required now. And in my head, I'm like, no, I don't think that's true. It's still there. So again, some people still want that old schooling method to still run, and some of us want that our children should have a choice to expose themselves and learn themselves what they really want.
At the higher ed, we have CUET now. So I think CUET will encompass
the board exam,
the CLAT, and there's so many. I mean,
everything. It'll become the
NEET,
quote unquote the SAT for India.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's much required. Although for medical there is NEET, so you need to have certain. You need to.
In fact, there have been conversations in the corridors. That even those will culminate into one umbrella.
And that should be the
way forward.
You can break it up for different. So if I'm pursuing medical, I give
you can have more attempts of it.
Yes,
there has to be one.
And I think we want them to be critical thinkers also. So all these tests and everything, like for example, I gave the SAT to go to the US. The way they give you those questions for math and English was so different as opposed to when we were sitting for our board exams.
Correct.
Yes, I would 100% agree that because I went to a CBSE school, my level of math was somewhere else when I went to the
rigor
US.
was ready. Yeah.
When, you know, and I was always a student who I always felt I don't want to study maths. But then I also knew I want to go to the US, SAT to dena padega. Might as well study maths so that, you know, all of that kind of happens. But I think being in a CBSE school gave me a little edge over when I went abroad to study.
But I think IB also helps you with essay writing.
IB,
so for us, it was, you know, we were hit suddenly with essay writing, and IB schools already give you that exposure much earlier in life.
So they're not taking help of anyone to write those things because they were naturally, trained for that.
And you know, a lot of young people also at the helm of CBSE now. I personally know so many of them. And they are already talking about, you know, revamping the whole curriculum.
Which is amazing.
Over time, of course. You can't do anything overnight.
And also we're talking about a whole country. Here we're only talking about our certain schools. They are actually doing it.
And then there's so many state boards. We are forgetting the state boards of each state.
Of course. That's a massive...
they
say India lives outside of the metros and the states.
Exactly.
So, you know, a very different kind of question where if you were given a chance that you had an opportunity to have the whole education set up in a different country as is, if I can lift and shift, which country could it be?
I think currently Africa this is a need of the hour, because we get African students in our university, and I see the level of the studies, and they themselves they are wanting a very good education system. So I think Africa and maybe the South Americas is somewhere a good education system is really, really required.
A robust system.
Yeah.
I think they really, really need it.
So given an opportunity, you will lift and shift it
for the good of to make that impact. And
or one is impact.
No,
the other is
lift and shift the whole thing.
The
without
whole
it
thing
being present in India.
Yeah.
Is that what you're trying to say? No, I'd say in India.
You say in India. Okay.
India.
The lift and shift. Imagine that you both were born there. There was a GD Goenka in, let's say, Brazil, or which country should it be? Not because the impact. It's just because that environment would have allowed the GD Goenka to be a different league. Or do you think that what you've done here is?
I think
India really needed it,
and I think India
really
will
needed
let
it
us.
That time.
I think India will let us do it because if we are already we have I think 4 states left to touch. 4 or 5 states. So I feel like if we can just do it right with these schools, we can make an impact. I'm not going to say that I need to get up and move. It's just about making sure that we're able to.
I would definitely want to be in a less regulated country. I mean, there's like you were talking about anecdotes from each state.
Yeah.
So I think it's the regulations
in every state
that sort of slows you down.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously the government puts regulation for the larger good of the society, because there are a lot of people who take wrong advantage of unfair advantage. So, biggest lessons from your journey till now?
Let's start with you.
I mean, okay, so I think my biggest lesson, not believing that everything is going to work out. You are going to fail, and you are not going to do things right, and you're going to have all those eyes watching you because you've been put in this position, and it's okay to accept that. It's okay to accept your mistakes and make sure you correct them, because if we feel that everything we're doing is right, then I don't think we're doing it fair for the children. For me personally, I know I'm on a learning curve, and that learning curve will, I think, never stop, because today these children are teaching me something else. The next generation is going to teach me completely something else. So it's okay that if we have made mistakes in certain ways, but now we've made a conscious effort of correcting our path and changing things for the benefit of all the thousands of kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
I think for me, patience, and I also feel now education is a game which is played in decades. You can't. I went to Times Higher Education Ranking, and they said till a university is a child till it turns 50. And I was taken aback by the statement. I still remember it.
Wow.
So I feel, for me, patience, and I need to play. The vision what we are planning has to be played in decades, and then further played in decades after that. After we are not even
till it reaches centuries.
Because we will not remain. The institution will always stay. GD Goenka will always stay, whether my family runs it, whether it goes into the hands of somebody else. So
institution remains.
Institution remains. So that's the biggest lesson.
So what we leave behind is what is going to be. Today I might not be.
And to plan everything long, thinking of decades, not the next 3 years, 4 years, not what makes business sense. Of course, you have to keep that in mind. But in education, what I realize is it has to be thought out very, very properly. And people ask me, what is the ROI when you open a GD Goenka school? I said, don't look at the ROI. If you want to make an impact,
once that impact happens, everything will just come back. It's as simple as that. You put in your heart and soul into it, and you'll really see it coming back to you in multi-dimensions.
It opens so many doors. Not just, you have so much soft power. I don't want to say it on camera, but
being amazing power and responsibility.
We can empower thousands of children today. I think that is the biggest boon that we have as a country, as a young nation.
It's a great opportunity.
Look at the employment you're generating.
And we are one of the youngest nations in the world. We are in a very powerful place right now as a country, and we must make sure we're doing it right.
No, it's interesting you both said these two very different things, but it takes me to the last question. Are schools doing enough to prepare children in their minds that it's okay to fail. It's okay to, not do well. And, to your, one of the biggest lessons in your journey is that it's okay to fail. If I don't know, that's fine.
Yeah.
I will get to know. But is our education system geared, ready to allow students to fail and be okay with it and not sort of discriminate or, take it to their disadvantage?
I think in many ways, yes, certain schools are okay with it, but that also means that we are equally responsible for that child. That child has not failed on their own.
Yeah. There was a missing knowledge
missing, whether it's with the parenting style, whether it's the teaching style, whether it was something else that might have been going on in that child's life.
Or maybe inspiring the child enough to...
Yes. Yeah. So even when we, of course, every school
so this
has
introspection.
Failures in the sense that children just think it's so easy, pad lenge, and suddenly in class 11 you realize we didn't study and we failed that exam. So that is the time where we're not going to discriminate those children, but yes, we're going to have to sit them down and see, was it a mistake, or did they not come to school enough, or we have to find out where that gap was and accept it, and not like, please figure it out for yourself. But we have to guide them.
It's scary when we hear stories coming out of Kota. Who would know it better than you?
Yeah,
when you hear these stories,
so that's why I think EQ, like because you have to make that child strong enough कि सिर्फ पढ़ाई में, there is so much more to life.
There is so much more to life. Yeah, if you failed on one quarter,
it's okay.
Doesn't mean that the other billion quarters are
Yeah.
Exactly. Now you look back and you look at when you gave your class 10th exams, you gave your class 12th exams. There was so much fear, and I still have nightmares. Sometimes you wake up at night and you feel like, okay, I still haven't finished my paper. Even after 20 years, you get sometimes, once in a while you get a nightmare that, oh shit, I failed in my exam or my paper, there's very less time left. And it's still embedded in our system. And that's so sad.
Yeah,
it's so sad. And, to this point, I recall a conversation with my son and my wife. They were sitting together, and then he had an exam next day. And, he was not studying. He was just chilling with us, in the language that they use. ऐसे इसको डर नहीं लग रहा है इसका एग्जाम है करना.
Exactly.
And then he looked at me. Why should I be afraid? You want me to be afraid? Oh my God,
so
that was a bold.
Done something right.
Yeah.
That's your message.
I said, right if he's not afraid or he doesn't have fear for the exam tomorrow, it's nothing to be worried. It's actually
a big win.
He has
he's
sort of crossed the chasm.
Yeah, like I had a big fear of maths through my life, and now sometimes my kid in grade 3, 7-year-old will open, this is looking so difficult, Mama, I can't do it, you need to come. I'm like, if you're going to say it's difficult, it's going to be difficult. So I think the one other huge thing that I think I've started doing, whether it's in my personal life or in school, is doing affirmations with these children from a very young age.
Yes.
Just the fact that I can do anything I put my mind to. I am brave, I am kind, I am empathetic. Whatever suits you at whichever stage of life and whichever age they are in. I think just to make sure that they know that it's okay and it's easy. So I'll always tell them, I'm like, at least attempt. Before when the paper kholte, it's so difficult, I'm like, attempt. It was very easy. I said, now you will start by saying it was very easy, and it will be very easy.
I think same goes to leadership. Recently I got a coach on board. And I said, Coach, I'm always worrying. Why are you worrying? Just build system, build processes, delegate work, and stop worrying. It's not your job to worry. As leaders, as owners of businesses, and you have multiple verticals reporting to you, you're always worrying that something's going on here. He said, stop worrying. I said, Coach, that's not normal. He's like, but you have to normalize not worrying. So I think same goes.
Which is so true.
So I think same with leadership, or whether you're a student, any stage of life.
Any and every.
When you're a parent, it's okay not to worry.
As they say that we get stressed when we are thinking about the past and anticipating too much on the future.
Yes.
It's like an iron bar where there are weight on two sides. There's a stress. The word actually comes from there. And there are multiple stresses. That's anxiety. Right?
But if you're well prepared for an exam, if you have built systems in your businesses, processes,
you should feel you're ready for it.
So.
No, I think you won. If your child is saying, why should I be stressed?
Look, I mean, for a moment I was like taken aback. This guy's not worried. And then my wife said, It's good he's not worried.
Yeah.
Why are you stressing it out? I said, because I used to get worried.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the stories that we carry along,
Correct.
with
So
ourselves.
we can't, I think, put our own journeys on our own children,
Right.
We have to let them have their own journey.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to
It's
say
yeah,
than
it's,
do
it's
it.
hard,
He just said
but that's the right
Because
thing
sometimes
to.
he's like, but you think like this, but when it comes to your own children, you're doing. I'm like, because it's harder to create that gap. But I think I'm
Yeah.
slowly teaching myself every single day.
Fantastic. So, any final message from both of you to parents, educators, and children?
Perfect.
I think I've said enough on parenting now. I think I can just do parenting all my life. But I think to the fraternity that we are with, we are alongside with, I say it is our moral duty to make sure that each child believes in themselves when they leave school or university or when they've done their
Any
PhD.
education institute.
Any education institute. They just shouldn't lose faith on themselves. They must know that we're in it for the win. And we will all do something which is
No, they shouldn't
amazing.
walk out broken. They
Yes,
shouldn't.
everyone should believe that we are going to achieve something. Few hiccups shouldn't make us stop our
Shackle
journey.
the whole.
Yeah.
That's a great message.
Yeah.
I think it's self-awareness. We recently attended a session with Sister Shivani, and I feel that part of not religion but spirituality, and not going too much on the tangent of spirituality, but just self-awareness on the part of the teachers, on the part of the students, on the part of the parents is the most important. And then journey begins from there, I feel.
I think you raised a very important point here, and I can't, end this before asking you: should spirituality, not religion, should spirituality and such practices become a core component of education system?
I'm a firm believer. After attending sessions with Shivani Didi and the way they spoke about digital wellness, they spoke about leadership, they spoke about how to be calm in situations. There were so many topics. It's just, it's a way of living.
And did you think that if I had known this
I
while
really
growing
wish
up,
we were talking that we spoke to Sister Shivani that, we want to, of course, not label it as spirituality, but
self-awareness or development.
Infuse it into the curriculum or in a way without students even without knowing that they are learning these things, without labeling it as spiritual. I don't see an issue with that at all, although.
I think it gives you a firm belief in yourself.
So affirmations came from there. I mean, she does it every night, and she taught us also do it every night.
It's on my phone also.
They tell us to bless the food. They said she talks about vibrations.
And I think we are already doing that in all schools. We are telling whether it's any community, culture, religion, we all bless our food before eating it.
Yes.
And affirmation is a big word, but in schools always had a morning prayer.
Morning prayer. Exactly. Aaj wo affirmation ki term has become so trendy. So we're saying affirmation because that's what the
you have your own prayers.
Modern day parent is understanding the word affirmation, but हमारे ज़माने में at least in that time सुबह की prayer होगी, you done the Rabindranath Tagore, he had written some beautiful things, and that was as good as an affirmation because you were doing it every single day. So that kind of is inherited in us. So these affirmations are nothing but something you tell yourself every single day and you start believing it and living it.
True.
So definitely, not terming it spirituality, but the way of life is definitely a way to go, and this should be part of the curriculum. Definitely.
Fantastic. Nipun, Radhika, thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
journeys
so
with
much.
us, and I hope the people who are watching us, listening to your thoughts, will definitely dig out some amazing nuggets to make their own institutions and their parenting better.
So
thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.